Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we are diving into a major development that has sent shockwaves across Europe and beyond. Belarus has just made a huge announcement that could reshape the direction of the Russia-Ukraine war, raising tensions and triggering alarm among neighboring countries and global powers. This isn't just another political headline, this may be the turning point that analysts have been warning about. For months, Belarus has been quietly supporting Russia behind the scenes, offering logistical aid, intelligence, and training grounds. But now, with this bold move, Belarus is stepping into the spotlight and making its intentions clear, signaling a possible escalation in the conflict that could draw new players directly into the battlefield. To understand the full significance of this announcement, we need to take a step back and look at Belarus's role in the war so far. While Belarus hasn't officially declared itself a combatant, its territory has been used by Russian forces to launch attacks on Ukraine, especially during the early stages of the invasion. The close relationship between Russian President Vladimir Putin and Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko has been evident for years. Many have described Belarus as a satellite state or even a puppet of Moscow. Despite international sanctions and warnings, Belarus has remained loyal to Russia. However, what makes this new announcement different is that Belarus is openly signaling it may deepen its involvement, potentially even committing forces or advanced weapon systems to the battlefield. The announcement reportedly includes several key elements: increased military readiness, joint combat exercises with Russia, and the deployment of new advanced weapon systems along the Ukrainian border. Some sources even suggest that Belarus could allow nuclear weapons to be permanently stationed on its soil, a move that would dramatically change the balance of power in the region. The phrase "red alert" has been used by analysts to describe the current situation as NATO countries like Poland, Lithuania, and Latvia are scrambling to reinforce their own borders. The possibility of Belarus moving from passive support to active participation is raising fears of a much wider regional conflict. Another worrying aspect of this announcement is the timing. Ukraine is in a critical phase of the war, trying to maintain momentum despite facing ammunition shortages, infrastructure damage, and ongoing Russian attacks. The introduction of Belarus into the conflict could force Ukraine to stretch its defenses even thinner, opening up new fronts and complicating military planning. Ukrainian officials have already warned that Belarus could be preparing to launch a surprise offensive, similar to what Russia did at the start of the war. This wouldn't just be a symbolic gesture. Belarus has a significant military force and the advantage of geographic proximity. Even if they don't attack directly, simply mobilizing could force Ukraine to divert troops away from key battles in the east and south. From Russia's perspective, this move is extremely strategic. By involving Belarus more openly, Russia gains additional pressure points against Ukraine and NATO. It also sends a message to the West. Russia is not alone, and the conflict could grow if the West continues supporting Ukraine. For months, Russia has been trying to show strength and unity, even while struggling with internal issues. Just recently, there were reports of rising desertions, declining morale, and political tensions inside Russia. By presenting Belarus as a fully committed partner, the Kremlin hopes to restore confidence and intimidate its opponents. Some analysts even believe this announcement might be part of a coordinated plan to force negotiations on Russia's terms. But the big question is, why now? What is Belarus hoping to gain from this? The answer might be more complex than it seems. Lukashenko, the longtime leader of Belarus, has faced growing domestic pressure. His hold on power has been challenged by protests, economic decline, and international sanctions. Aligning more strongly with Russia could help him secure military protection and political support from Moscow. In exchange, he may be offering deeper cooperation in the war effort. However, this decision could backfire. The Belarusian population is deeply divided, and many citizens do not want to be dragged into a foreign war. If Belarus sends troops into Ukraine, it could trigger internal unrest or even resistance within the military ranks. International reaction to the announcement has been swift. NATO officials have condemned Belarus's actions, calling it a dangerous escalation. Poland, in particular, has issued strong warnings and mobilized additional forces near the Belarusian border. The United States and European Union are discussing new sanctions, and some leaders are calling for Belarus to be labeled as a co-aggressor in the conflict. This would have massive political consequences. It could isolate Belarus from the global economy even further, cut off trade routes, and potentially trigger a stronger NATO military presence in Eastern Europe. The international community understands that if Belarus officially joins the war, the conflict could expand beyond Ukraine's borders, pushing the world dangerously close to a direct confrontation between major powers. Meanwhile, Russia has praised Belarus for its courageous and strategic decision. Russian state media is presenting this as proof that the union state between Russia and Belarus is stronger than ever. They are framing it as a united front against what they call Western aggression, but not everyone is convinced. Some experts believe Russia may be pressuring Belarus to make these moves, using economic dependence and political leverage. If this is the case, Belarus could be acting under duress, trying to survive by aligning with the stronger power. However, once Belarus steps in fully, there might be no turning back. It becomes part of the war, and therefore part of the consequences. Let's talk about the possibility of nuclear weapons. This is one of the most alarming parts of the announcement. Russia has already transferred tactical nuclear weapons to Belarus earlier in 2023, but at the time, it was unclear whether they were permanently deployed or just temporarily stored. Now, Belarus is signaling that nuclear readiness is part of its defense strategy. This means that nuclear threats could come not only from Russia, but also from Belarusian territory, bringing the danger much closer to NATO borders. This development is causing serious concern among European governments. If nuclear weapons are officially stationed in Belarus, it will be the first time since the Cold War that such weapons are so close to countries like Poland and Lithuania. Ukraine has responded strongly to the announcement, calling it a direct threat to its sovereignty. Ukrainian military officials have stated they are closely monitoring Belarusian troop movements and preparing defensive strategies in case of an attack from the north. President Zelensky has emphasized that Ukraine is ready for any scenario and has appealed to international allies for additional support. He warned that the world must not underestimate the situation. If Belarus opens a second front, the scale of the war could expand dramatically. The people of Belarus are also reacting. Social media reports indicate increasing fear and anxiety, with many Belarusians worried that their country is being dragged into a war they never agreed to. Some opposition groups are calling for protests, while others are urging Belarusian soldiers to refuse orders if they are told to fight in Ukraine. The possibility of internal resistance could complicate Lukashenko's plans and put him in a dangerous position. He may be betting that Russia will protect him from any backlash, but history has shown that forced alliances can lead to instability. As we look ahead, several major questions remain unanswered. Will Belarus actually send troops, or is this just a strategic bluff to pressure Ukraine and NATO? Will Russia use Belarus as a launching pad for a new offensive? Could NATO intervene more directly if Belarus crosses the line? And most importantly, could this escalation push the world closer to a broader conflict that extends beyond Ukraine? What we do know is that this announcement marks a major shift in the war. Belarus is no longer hiding in the shadows. It is stepping forward, changing the dynamics of the conflict and forcing every country involved to rethink their strategies. The coming weeks will be critical. Military movements, diplomatic responses, and political decisions will determine whether this is just a warning shot or the beginning of a new and dangerous phase in the war. This is a developing story with huge global implications, and we will continue to follow every update. Stay tuned, stay informed, and let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think Belarus will fully enter the war? Is this a bluff or a real threat? Thank you for watching, and as always, I'll see you in the next video.